Hello viewers of Dubai Life. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for commenting. This is a program or a channel that will tell you more about Dubai, what is happening in Dubai, what are some of the tourist attractions in Dubai, what are the recreation facilities available in Dubai, how do you go about with life in Dubai, how do you improve your career, it's generally about life in Dubai and things you may need to know. If you're new to Dubai or you're planning to come to Dubai, you better subscribe to this channel so that you get information and click the notification bell so that whenever I have a new video up, you're the one to know first. This video is about Eid Al Adha, the dates, the festivities, what will happen, how are things different this time that we have COVID-19 pandemic. Things may be slightly different, and I'm going to talk about all that. I'll talk about Hajj, which happens during the same period. I'll talk about Arafat Day, which is also a part of the celebration. I'll tell you how many days we have to relax or to take off as public holidays announced by the government of United Arab Emirates. Without wasting any time, let's get started with what is Eid Al Adha. I know some of my viewers are not Muslims. They may not know what Eid Al Adha means. Adha from Arabic means slaughtering or sacrifice. It's the Eid that we celebrate with sacrifice. So let me talk about the date. When is Eid Al Adha 2020 going to happen? It was announced that we shall have 4 days of holidays, starting on the 30th, which will be Thursday, which is Arafat Day. And from Arafat Day, we have 3 days of Eid Al Adha, 31st, 1st, and 2nd. 2nd will be Sunday, so that means offices will open again on Monday, 3rd, after Eid celebrations. We have 4 days of celebrating, sacrificing, and sharing the joy of Eid Al Adha. Let's talk about slaughtering, because it's Eid for sacrifice, slaughtering animals. Back home, it's easy. If you have your animal, you just take it in the backyard and slaughter, and then share the meat with friends and families and people and the neighbors. In United Arab Emirates or in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Fujairah, we may not be able to do that, especially the expatriates. We don't have that much space. We are living in apartments. We don't have that common areas that is that big to have 10, 20 people slaughtering animals. It's not possible. And maybe the locals who have enough space, enough land and farms may be able to do that at home. So what the government does, in the past we used to go to the abattoirs, you make your order, you get it slaughtered, then you take the meat and you can share with others. This time, due to COVID-19, things are a bit different. The government is trying to control crowds and gatherings, big gatherings. We know the rush at the abattoirs during Eid Al Adha. Many people coming to perform their sacrifice. This time it's different. We don't want to have those crowds at the places of slaughtering. So there's an app that has been designed to make sure people stay at home. There are many apps to help us order for your sacrifice, get it slaughtered, and get it delivered at your home. The main government app for sacrifice is called Al Mawashi app. You just look out for Mawashi app. That's a government approved app. It's a government app for sacrificing. Others are there, private apps you can try out depending on the pricing. Maybe people may have to look at options, but this is the one that is approved by the government. It's a government app for sacrificing. You can also try the Red Crescent. You can be assisted. You will be given how much you can pay. You may not even want to have the meat itself. You can offer a sacrifice in terms of cash, in dirhams. You can pay that with your credit card, and then it will be registered as your sacrifice for Eid Al Adha. So what it does on the app, you have to download the app. It's on Android and OS operating systems. You download it, install on your phone. Then you go and choose your order. If you want sheep, you want goat, you want beef, then you choose what you want, get it slaughtered, and it can be delivered to your home. That's how it's going to be this time. It's going to be easier. You don't have to go and line up at the abattoirs. It's going to be crowded, and we don't want to increase the risk of spreading COVID-19. At the same time, people should perform their sacrifice. Let's talk about what happens on Eid Al Adha. Normally, Eid Al Adha, in the morning, people don't have to eat. We don't have to eat on Eid Al Adha in the morning. We only eat after prayers. It's fasting on that Eid. Unlike Eid Al Fitr, where it's breaking fast, we eat in the morning before going for prayers. Eid Al Adha, we have to fast the night before so that we eat after returning from the mosque. This time, prayers, I'm not sure yet. It has not been confirmed if we shall have prayers in the mosques, but it's most likely not going to happen. because on 1st of June, mosques were opened for normal 5 prayers. However, Juma prayers up to now have not been allowed in the mosques. The regulations on the 5 prayers, the 5 daily prayers, people have to go with their mat for the prayers. And you have to go with your Quran if you want to recite it. And after prayers, you have to go back home with your mat. You don't leave it in the mosque. And the mosque will be sanitized before the next prayer. So those are the regulations on 5 daily prayers. For Eid Al Adha prayers, it's not yet confirmed if we shall have a chance to go in the mosques like before. We know how crowds gather for the prayers, Eid prayers. The prayer grounds, the mosques all get packed on Eid. By this time, it may not happen. So keep looking out for the information on the legitimate websites. But most likely, we shall not have our usual gatherings for Eid Adha. Let's talk about fasting on Eid Al Adha. I mentioned it a little bit, but let's go deep into details. What happens on Eid Al Adha? Eid Al Adha, first of all, happens on the 10th day of Dhul Hajj. Dhul Hajj is the last month of the Islamic calendar. The Islamic calendar follows a different system. We have the Georgian calendar that all of us follow, the English calendar, which follows the movement of the sun, or the earth and the sun movement. That is, let's leave the physics alone. But the Islamic calendar follows the movement of the moon. So the Islamic year is slightly shorter than the Georgian calendar year. It is about 10 days less. That means Eid Al Adha doesn't fall on the same day every year according to the Georgian calendar. However, it falls on the same day every year on the Islamic calendar, which follows the moon movements. So, from the day we sight the moon for Dhul Hajj, the last month, and that's the day we start fasting. It's sunnah for Muslims who can, they fast 10 days. Others fast only the last day, which is Arafat day. So it depends on your ability to fast. You may fast all the 10 days, or you may fast the last day, which is Arafat day. How does it come about? There's a story that many of you know because it's in the Bible, it's in the Torah, it's in the Quran, it's in many of the religious books. It's a story about Prophet Abraham or Ibrahim. Depending on where you come from, the name may sound slightly different. Prophet Ibrahim is one of the prophets we know in Islam. For so many years, he didn't have a son. And he pledged that if God ever asks him to do anything, even if it meant slaughtering his own child he would do it to show his resilience, his belief, his commitment to God. One only son called Ismail. Ismail was very beloved because he was the only son and he came at an old age. After getting the son, maybe he had a little bit forgotten about his pledge before he got the son. Prophet Ibrahim got repeated dreams about him slaughtering his own son. At first he thought it's not true. But this dream persisted. It came 3 days, 4 days, the same dream, the same message. So he knew it was real. He had to go and do it. So he told his son, "My son, I got this message from God that I have to sacrifice you to show my commitment to God." His son was religious enough, he accepted. So he took him to the place where he's supposed to perform this sacrifice. He had his sword, very, very sharp. The devil was trying to stop him, telling him, "What are you doing? You're crazy. How can you slaughter your own son? This is impossible. This is not from God. You must be dreaming. Don't do it." But he refused. He threw stones or a rock towards the devil, and he went ahead to perform this sacrifice. Once he reached the place on the rock where he was supposed to sacrifice his own son, Ismail, he tied his eyes. He made sure he doesn't look at him so that he doesn't get any mercy when he's doing this. And he prayed. Then he started to cut off his neck, like slaughtering him. He tried so hard. He had a very sharp sword, but it failed. He tried so much, it failed. Out of anger, he threw this rock, this sword onto the rock, and it cut the rock into two. And he wondered, why would this happen? How can it fail to cut flesh and it cuts a rock? He tried it again, it failed. Now the prophet got another message, and the sheep came to save Ismail. From that day, he sacrificed a sheep instead of his son because God saw his commitment. The test was passed. If he had not slaughtered that sheep, maybe many of us wouldn't be here because maybe it would be a custom to follow. Like we're following now, slaughtering the animals. Who knows? Maybe the first sons wouldn't be alive by now. So from that day until today, Muslims around the world celebrate Eid Al Adha by sacrificing. We can slaughter goat, sheep, cow, camels, all animals that eat grass. That is one fact. They have to be animals that eat grass, and they should not have any disability. They should be animals that are well fed, looking healthy. That's what we slaughter. And when we slaughter these animals, we share this meat with people who are less fortunate. Not everyone is in position to slaughter because of differences in financial status. Some people may not be able to slaughter. So we share this animal with the neighbors, with friends and family, and with those who are less fortunate. So that's the best part of Eid Al Adha. It's not just about celebrating, it's about showing that we are also committed to following this custom that started with Ibrahim, with Prophet Ibrahim, and we share that meat with others who are less fortunate. Let's talk about the Takbir, the Eid Takbir. The Eid Takbir is famous for every Eid. It's a custom for Muslims to say the Takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamdu. This will happen, but this time it will be broadcasted like it was on Eid al-Fitr. So unless the mosques open, the mosques will only be broadcasting Takbir, but they may not be open for prayers. So don't just go to the mosque because of the Takbir. Wait for the last communication if we shall have access to the mosques. But we may have Takbir and we have to pray at home just like last Eid. Now the firing of cannons. This happens in United Arab Emirates. It's a old custom of firing cannons to celebrate beginnings of Eid, beginning of Ramadan, breaking of fast. Such events have been celebrated with cannons, firing of cannons. This time the cannons will be fired maybe on Arafat evening or a day before to celebrate or to welcome the festival season, the Eid Al Adha. Now, in the past, people used to gather around in crowds to watch the cannons firing. This time it may not be the same. Places will be there, but we want to limit the gatherings. So people may not be allowed to see that, but they will be broadcasted on TV live. It will be unfair to finish this topic or to end this video without talking about Hajj. Hajj is the Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina. It happens every year in the month of Dhul Hajj. Dhul Hajj is the 12th month of the Arabic calendar or the Islamic calendar, and this is when Muslims go to Mecca for pilgrimage. In this time, we have to follow some steps or some rituals that were done by the prophets, Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So people who go for Hijjah or for Hajj come back and they given a title of Hajj. Hajj for men and Hajjat for female. Some people back home get to be called those titles because of their wealth. Because the reason is you need to be wealthy to perform Hajj. You don't go if you don't have the means. It's not compulsory, but it's for those who have the means. So there are some changes due to COVID-19. This time, Saudi Arabia is limiting the numbers. Just remember that Hajj is generating revenue for Saudi Arabia, but this time they had to stop it for all international guests because they wanted to limit the spread of COVID-19. It's not something they want to do because it's religious, first of all. To stop people to come to perform their religious ceremony is not right, it's not good, but this time it's because of the pandemic. The Hajj this time or this year was limited to only about 10,000 guests, and these are only local guests in Saudi Arabia. So no one from outside Saudi Arabia was allowed to come for Hajj this year, and even the people who are performing Hajj this year are selected. Not everyone who had money could go there. It's trying to limit the numbers of people around. Hajj itself, last year, over 2.5 million Muslims went for Hajj. Just imagine having 2.5 million people. If you have them together for 5-10 days, and you have someone or some two people infected with the COVID-19, you can imagine how many people may go with this virus and how many they will spread to. That's the only reason why this time Hajj is not performed as it has been before. It's going to be a day that we shall remember and we shall tell our grandchildren. In 2020, people were not allowed to go to Saudi Arabia for pilgrimage because of the pandemic that we had. Only 10,000 people were selected to perform Hajj in a place that can occupy 2.5 million people. It's a sad thing, but we have to bear with that for this time. Okay, let's go back to the celebrations. It's not all doom and gloom. How are we going to celebrate for Eid this time? The malls are open. A little bit of restrictions, distancing, all the precautions for sanitization, temperature guns at the gates to see that people have normal temperatures. Anyone with a temperature that is above 37.5 will not be allowed to continue. Will have to be isolated and recommended for a proper COVID test. So keep the distance. If you want to go for dining out, I think it's better for you to book online or reserve your place online. Otherwise, if you go to a place and it's crowded, you won't be allowed to sit and dine. So I suggest it's better for you to book or reserve a place earlier. Hotels are open, swimming pools are open, recreation grounds are open. Many of the things have been opened after we've seen numbers going down for new cases. However, it's not time for us to be complacent. We cannot relax. The enemy is still around and is invisible. Let's be precautious about the pandemic. Let's not gather around in tight crowds. Keep a distance, sanitize, have your mask on whenever you can, apart from some games or some events that may not allow you to have the masks, but have your mask on. Theme parks are also open. Water parks are open. I visited one recently and I have a video about that. So you can celebrate the way you want, but just have safety in mind about COVID-19. It's very, very important. We want you people to be alive. That's all I have for you today about Eid Al Adha. Please celebrate safely. Have safety in mind all the time. COVID-19 is real. It is there. It is invisible and it's attacking everyone. It doesn't know who you are. So keep safe, sanitize, mask on, be safe. Thank you. Let's celebrate Eid Al Adha 2020 differently this time.